Hello, Be Awesome at Facility Management podcast viewers, listeners, and possibly participants today. I am your host back after a brief hiatus of being the backup co-host last week, Joshua Peach, and I am joined by my ever-changing, hat-wearing, house-moving co-host Paul Anastasi. I'm taking a guess, different space or area, but you're in New Hampshire.
Yep, you're right.
Wow.
From the beautiful Hampton Beach Studios.
I haven't been to the Hampton Beach Studios yet, but I hear it is lovely.
It is.
This is an interesting episode for anybody that's listening and watching on social media. Just put in the chat that you want to come on and say hello and tell us a little bit about what you do and where you do it, and related to your school and some of the things you're proud of, maybe some of the things that you're looking forward to. But we'd love to have any of our listeners of the first 21 episodes that are enjoying. Should we say the word enjoying when we say the end of the fiscal year? This is going to be an interesting end of fiscal years. I think this will go down in the history books for me as one of the probably most interesting and I guess exciting and a little bit scary at some points, right?
Yeah. I mean, for anyone that's done public work, we know that everything changes this month. Everything, all the budgets are either being spent out or they've been spent out and you're frozen, so you can't spend any money. School is out here in New England in the past few days. Some are out today, some were out last week. And you're starting your summer work. So the end of the fiscal year brings a lot to the public facilities world, that's for sure.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, fuel contracts tend to renew on the new budget year, right?
Yep, absolutely. Everybody should have been topping off those tanks, and you got a few more days to do it. If you can get to your fuel company, your fuel vendor, buy it now.
Yeah, public service announcement number 1. Yeah. Top off your tanks if at all possible. I haven't seen the numbers, the variables, the difference between last year and this year, but I gotta assume that it's going to be significant. And I mean, you're talking about, how big do these tanks? We're talking about number 2 oil, because there's a lot of number 2 oil being used in New England still, right?
10,000 gallon tanks. In some place, some have multiple 10,000 gallon tanks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people have gone to natural gas, and that's creeping up as well.
I mean, everything's creeping up, right? It's like everything. It's the conversation I had. I met a truck driver. He's learning to be a truck driver. I don't know if I told the story in the podcast. I think I told you the story, Paul, when I was at Chili's in Jacksonville, Florida airport. And I meet this gentleman who was at tractor trailer school. And I'm like, man, what are you thinking? Right? I mean, for those that don't know, a tractor trailer gets an average of about 5 miles to the gallon. When you're talking about $6 and $7 a gallon for diesel, before they pay themselves, before they worry about wear and tear on tires and everything else, it's $1.20 a gallon, just to put $1.20 a mile just to drive with the gas, never mind the motor and the oil changes and everything else. And right. So, and when I owned a spring water business, I used to always tell people, if you bought it, a truck brought it. So it's, interesting times, because it's
think of the size of their tanks and what it cost them to fill it up.
Yep.
And like you said, the mileage that's involved. And then I still don't understand why diesel is more expensive than regular gas, because it's less refined, as far as I know. I mean, I'm no chemist with all this.
Yeah.
But I did that. I never understood that.
So this happened in the late 90s, and it happened again in the early 2000s, where fuel prices for diesel surged dramatically. And, I think I kind of passed the supply and demand accounting class in community college, but it doesn't, the refining, the preparation is less than the standard unleaded.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. But what I do get is we got a lot of people retiring next week.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people retiring.
The end of the fiscal year, a lot of people going out.
Yep. Is Fast Eddie? That's official, right?
I think Fast Eddie's on his way. Yep.
Yep. We got to say thank you for your 42 years of service, Anthony Amiano. We're hoping he was going to come on again. If anybody's listening and wants to come on, I can send you the link. Open hot mic today. So we wanted to have some folks that wanted to talk to us about what's going on in their school world this last week before the budget year sets the recycle. We probably have some listeners that don't even actually know about how that all works. Should probably talk about that, kind of give an overview, right?
Yeah.
So for those that are listening that deal with private sector, or those that deal with public sector and aren't aware, the budget year, the budget cycle for public education, for local government, for that matter, it cycles, the financial cycle is July 1st to June 30th. So it's the reset. So it's the reestablishment of the money that's going to be available for procurement for the upcoming year. So we're actually on July 1st, while it's still July 22, it's the FY 23 budget. And so everything has to be prepared. The level of work, I mean, this is months in the making, Paul, right? Like you guys, like July hits, you've got your approved procurement. You're going to have some refinement and readjustment based on, unknown factors like fuel increases or labor increases or other things. But you're literally, you're doing projects for July and August, doing all of the tallying up and working. And then it's like September, October, you're already talking about the next budget when this budget's released, basically.
Right. Exactly. And the smart ones out there, I mean, I don't have to, I'm preaching to the choir to anyone that's worked in this business. Buy your stuff early, get it in July and August. Because we know what happens when no one could have predicted this fuel thing that we're in, right? A year ago, we had no clue where we would be with fuel.
Right.
So as soon as you get your budget money, if you have known expenses, known purchases that you want to do it soon, do it early.
Yeah. Well, it bears the reason that you probably should have that mindset all the time. But I think COVID has really put that sense of urgency to everything from paper products, plastic products, cleaning supplies, cleaning equipment. I mean, the price of a electrostatic sprayer, that went from $500 to $1,500, and people had it budgeted for July 1 of 2020, and they held off, and then COVID hit, and now you want 30 of them, and it's going to cost you $30,000 more. So,
the other thing to watch, though, and be careful with, is most of us have put down those sprayers and not used them anymore. A lot of the product that goes into them have a freshness date, like hand sanitizer. There is a ton of hand sanitizer out there that's being advertised cheap, special. Buy out your end of the year budget. We have hand sanitizer. It has a freshness date. It has a shelf life.
What is it? 2 years? Like,
I'm not sure what the time frame is, but make sure you're buying stuff that you will be able to use within its shelf life.
I just got a bottle of it, and I was going to look at it because I probably just bought it and it's been sitting for some period of time. It's not like milk where they put the freshest stuff in the back and the oldest stuff in the front, or maybe they do. I'm curious. I'm curious to know what the shelf life,
what the cycle is. But the other thing is, if you do, want to purchase in bulk, and you're purchasing something like, hand sanitizer, it's got a flammable characteristic to it. Yep. Make sure you're checking with your fire department to know how much you can store or what special containments you need to store bulk flammables. There's only X amount you can have in a building, and I'm not sure what that is. I would have to ask my son, the fire inspector.
I think, they can't have it in containers bigger than a gallon, I think, right?
Yeah, but how many, and how far
apart? How many individual gallons, and how far apart do you have to be?
All of that it's one of the things, another one of my little pet peeves that I'll let you in on, propane gas. You go to Home Depot and the sign says, leave your propane tanks outside. And they've moved all their propane outside, right? Yep. So you don't go in the building. I get it. They don't want the big boom in the building. When you go to the plumbing department, it's loaded with all those little bottles of propane that people use for torch to plumbing. So
yeah.
I don't get it.
I never even thought of that, and I've bought those little
Yeah, you
things.
buy
And
those.
there's a
The
million
camping,
of
you
them.
use them for camping, you use them for plumbing, you use them for everything. So we can't bring a bottle from our gas grill, but when you go in the plumbing department, there's racks of it.
And
I don't get it.
I've never actually thought of that.
Go to the lawnmower, the outside department, and they have fuel. They have True Fuel. They have all the fuels that you use for chainsaws and pre-mixed. You know,
I'm gonna tell you that True Fuel is amazing. By the way, for anybody
absolutely
doesn't, I boycotted paying $15 for a gallon or whatever it is. I mean, that's what it is now. I think it was $9 before, and you can buy it in bulk for less. But your power tools run so much better, and it lasts so much longer from not gunking up your carburetor than that. Which, by the way, brings me to a whole other topic.
I want to hear about the lawnmower.
The lawnmower.
I want to hear about the lawnmower.
So I didn't tell you the whole story yesterday as to my impulse purchase because I wanted to leave a little bit of excitement. But
let's set the stage here. You were talking to
people
about their courtyards.
Right. So last week I got up on my soapbox and I talked about how upset I was that there are beautiful courtyards in schools all over the United States, especially in New England, that are not being used because they're not being cared for. And in today's age of technology and advancement, you don't need to worry about wheeling a lawnmower or a weed whacker or a trimmer or anything with the gas power through a school. Because I get it. That's like going into Home Depot and putting your propane tank in. I get it. You don't want gas spills on your hallways. And so I got talked all about this. And then that night, one of the people that listened to the podcast was like, so what battery powered lawnmower would you recommend?
And the answer was?
I don't have one, and I've never driven one, and I've never used one. I've just heard about them. And so I went to bed and I was like, well, that probably wasn't the best answer. And, I know enough, I've watched enough, and I've talked to enough professionals like you with regard to product. But I was like, you know what? Spot on. Let me go see if this thing's a real deal. Now, my lawn is like probably a half to 3/4 of an acre. It's a relatively simple lawn, mostly flat. I bought a Ryobi 40-volt Whisper push mower, all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, whichever you want. Comes with 2 batteries. It's really kind of slick because it runs on one battery at a time. I thought it would run with both batteries plugged in. So what happens is you use the first battery, and then there's a key, and you just rotate the key, and it activates the other battery.
Wow.
So you get 70 minutes of runtime. And I got to tell you something. So I've mowed my lawn every day.
Isn't it nice to have a new toy?
I have the most beautiful, perfectly level lawn. And because it's only a 21-inch deck opposed to like the sit down, because it's not fully level, because it's a narrow deck, it really cuts even across the board. And so I've had it for 6 days. I've got 6 mowings under my belt, whether it needed it or not. And I got to tell you, I have a battery powered weed whacker, which is by Ego. I think it's Ego. Yep. So Ego is the Lowe's version, and Ryobi is the Home Depot version. I'm a big fan of Ryobi. I've got a Ryobi blower, 40-volt blower for the front patio and everything, and it does remarkably.
So there you go. For all those schools out there that have internal courtyards, you got the inside scoop. I got to tell you, this morning, talk about inside courtyards. This morning, I had a session with Z. One of my mentoring sessions. So I met him at Witchcraft Heights Elementary School in Salem, Mass.
Did you get a T-shirt?
Heights. Yeah. So they have an enclosed courtyard. And what they did was they built all of these raised beds for growing produce.
Bingo.
And the kids work on the produce, and they start from seed, in February timeframe, March. And when the weather breaks, they get to plant them in these raised beds. But the best part of the whole project is most of the produce that I saw is going to mature in the summer when the kids aren't there. So the custodial staff gets to take it all.
Yep.
It's perfect. It works out. The only people that are around in that building are maintenance and custodians.
So I'll do one better for you. 2015, 2016, 2014, 15, 16. As you know, I paddled the giant pumpkin down a river.
Yep.
Not once, but twice. Paddled a 600
Didn't kill
pounder.
yourself the first time, so you had to go at it again.
Yeah, no, my buddy Farmer Todd, he came up with the idea. I got behind it. I'm a huge advocate of it, which is getting kids in the dirt and seeing, how things grow, because the majority of kids don't know where food comes from. It comes from a box, it comes from a package, it comes from
Right.
Big Y, Whole Foods, whatever. They don't understand the power of soil and what it can do. And so Todd started this program, and he did it with, I think, over 100 schools in the state of Massachusetts, where he gave pumpkin plants to schools, and he had the students plant them on school grounds and grow grow pumpkin. And then they had a weigh off, and the winner got a $1,500 or $2,000 grant that had to be used for outdoor space, either an outdoor classroom or an outdoor garden or something along those lines. And what was cool is pumpkins grow during the summer. And what I really loved about it was the feeling of continued care for one another. So that
Right.
the parents came together and they said, all right, I'm going to water and pick and do this on Monday. I'm going to do this on Tuesday. And there was really a feeding team for this pumpkin to grow. And it really worked well. So the next step is to get these kids and these parents involved during the summer to watch this come to fruition.
Yep.
No pun intended, but to come to fruition and be able to pick and be able to have that crop, whether it be do a farm stand. Like, why wouldn't you do a local farm stand? DuPont Ice Arena, that we've supported for the last couple of years, they grow produce on the ice rink space in Washington, D.C., and they have a farm stand on the weekends right on the corner and sell the produce. So these are things that are simple or seem simple. Like, I think the simplest answer for me is, and I know everybody comes back with, objections, is why are we putting ornamental trees and shrubs that serve little purpose other than appearance and not putting fruit-bearing trees on school grounds? Some of the best grounds, some of the best grounds you could have. So I have apple trees at the top of my driveway, literally on my street. And people go, why do you have apple trees? And I say, because when they finally grow apples, if somebody's walking down the street, they're going to see a sign that says free apples, and they can pull it from the tree and eat it. Right. What do I care? What do I have to worry about?
Right. Once the tree's growing, it doesn't cost you anything to produce apples.
Right. And we're losing farmland, especially like when we talk about New England. First of all, we have a short crop cycle, right? We've got a couple of months. When you're reading stuff like Lake Mead, the water dropping to such a certain point that crops are being compromised. When you talk about the fact that you can't get sriracha hot sauce because the pepper crop was ruined this year. When you talk about all these big pieces of produce and food that we count on from around the world not being able to get here, how difficult is it to put it on school grounds? Like, I'm sure that someone's going to say there's a liability issue. One of the people that I said it to, said the kids are going to take the apples off the tree instead of eat them, throw them through windows. Well, we're getting more protective windows. Like, hopefully they can, apple proof them. I don't know, but like, I just think we got way too many hungry people in the world, and we can do more by it. But I would love to see those gardens maintained and cared for the kids in the community through the year, which they could do in greenhouses.
And then, like you say, most towns have a market now. They have a market in town on the third Thursday or whatever it may be, and let the kids bring it in and make some money for the programming to keep the program going.
That's the whole thing. Is this stuff does cost money. It does take time. It does require people to get involved. But once they do it, it goes pretty smoothly, right? But you have to have some folks that are engaged and want to do that. So, And
getting back to Z's courtyard, I noticed that one of the things they needed to renovate the raised beds, because the raised beds were in there for years and they were old. Yeah. And so what they did was they wrapped the raised beds in pressure treated dimensional lumber, because the first raised beds weren't. It was just regular wood, which is brilliant, because the wood on the inside is rotten all now, but it's composting.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about the original frame, and now you've got the new pressure treated frame on the outside that'll last 30 years.
Yeah.
I think it was brilliant. Whoever came up with it.
Yeah. No, I think that I'm glad they're doing it. I might let him borrow my lawnmower for the other courtyard.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just think about all the stuff that we take for granted, or the space that we take for granted, and the stuff, all the work that we put into all of this, and what we're talking about is, without even intentionally doing it, while we're waiting to see. I don't know if anybody wants the access code, or maybe someone clicked in and I missed it. But anybody that wants the code, you can dial in. So our social media froze. The comment section stinks for our it's not working. So hang on one second while I do this. The one thing that we talk about all the time is, the school is part of the community. When we talk about use of buildings, here's Anthony wants to get on. Let's send him.
Anthony's here.
Anthony, let's see if we can get him. Let's see, Anthony. I'm just going to put the link publicly. I don't care. I'll be able to see who you are and see if somebody gets in there. Maybe it didn't go. Did it go through? Hang on one second. So Anthony, you're listening. So just look in your inbox in LinkedIn. See if I can do this right. Click on the link and come on in. Water's fine. We'd love to talk to you and share some. I don't know if you heard us talking about him.
He must have. His ears were burning.
His ears were burning. He might not have heard us, but now it's in your inbox, Anthony. Get on in here, buddy. Let's see here. I might have just actually just sent that publicly, so we'll see who else bangs in here. But while we're waiting for Anthony, this it's a community-based products, right?
Right.
This is what we're talking about, is getting back to basics. Like when I was a kid, like most kids' parents or grandparents, they farmed at their home. Yeah. Like they grew, like didn't help supermarkets. But I mean, I've never, and I feel bad saying this, like I don't like talking bad about anything right now, because it's a hard world for everybody. But I don't know about you, but grocery store produce, it's not all that good.
No.
The shelf life is less. Yep. The quality and caliber, you don't know where you're getting it from, and yep. It's only going to get worse. So the only way for it to get better is if we start growing it ourselves.
Right.
I mean, I can't eat our chickens and goats because they got names. But when I grew up, my grandparents they didn't name our pets: the chickens, the rabbits, the goats. We didn't have goats; we had chickens and rabbits.
My grandfather had an enormous garden. He had tomato plants and everything. When they had taken his leg when he was 80 years old because he had circulation problems, he had my uncles pave the paths between the tomato plants so he could roll out in his wheelchair and be in his garden. They actually paved the garden so that he could roll his wheelchair into the garden to get the produce. Yep.
I think that's a big difference. Is like when we were kids, there were no pesticides. There was no my grandfather weeded by hand every day.
Yeah,
he didn't spray Roundup or whatever it is, the Monsanto or whatever the big lawsuit is. Like it was legit good food, not tarnished soil, well taken care of and cared for. So, but I'd love to see, like, you just don't see that with schools. Like I'd love to see that showcase, because I don't think people. I think it's out there, but I don't think enough people do it.
No, you see it in the Aggie schools, but you don't see it, in a regular public school.
We talk about putting solar panels on roofs. Well, why don't we put why don't we put raised gardens up there?
Well, there are some roofs that are called green roofs, and they have plant life that grow on it. It absorbs the water. Yep, it absorbs the water. I mean, it has to be designed for it, but
do you know what's
happening? But I haven't seen produce yet.
Where do you know where one of these places is? Because I want to check it out.
I think there's one in Somerville. I'm not sure.
Is it like a legit, like grass, like we could go play soccer or football?
No, it's like a ground cover.
Oh, all
it's a low growing ground cover is what it is.
Yeah.
And it actually keeps the building cooler when the sun's, on it.
Yep.
I can see you up there with your new electric lawnmower.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Carrying it up this vertical ladder to get onto the roof.
That's exactly. Well, here's the cool thing. Not to go back to the lawnmower, but this is how cool this thing is. It's got one button you push, and it folds the whole lever system down,
Yep.
And then you just tilt it up and it leans against the wall. It doesn't take a square foot of
perfect
space.
for the courtyard things that we were talking about. That a lot of buildings that have courtyards that we can't get into, and we can't run a powered lawnmower, a gas powered lawnmower, because we're blowing exhaust into classrooms. It's quieter. I'm assuming it's quieter than a regular gas powered.
Oh, right. I was on a phone call when the first time I ran it. My phone rang in the first 2 minutes. Right. And I'm like, hey, I'm running my lawnmower. And they're like, what? I says, I'm running my lawnmower. I hope you don't mind. They're like, that thing it's quiet. It's quieter than a drone.
Right.
You hear the drone. You know about drones. You've lost one or two.
I had one once and it ran away from home.
Yeah. I had one once too. I had one once that I lent to our friend Carsey so he could do some mapping of his property in North Carolina, and I think it ended up in Mississippi. So well, this sounds like we need to make a trip to Fenway Park, Paul, because Chris Martinetti said there's a green roof for growing produce visible from Fenway Park. So we probably have to go to Fenway Park to see where that roof is for us to go find the roof. So thanks, Chris. Now we've got to go to a Red Sox game to do our investigation. So
that works.
Works for me too. So Anthony, LinkedIn, we've got the link live now. Actually, anybody can see it, which is, I don't know, could be good.
Maybe he took down his LinkedIn page when he retired last weekend. I don't know.
Z just said that Somerville. He's pretty sure the Somerville High School has it for their green roof. So Z, we're talking about you. You can hear us, and we're proud of you. So thanks. And if you want to borrow my battery powered lawnmower, you got it. So, but I mean, this is interesting times, right? I mean, it's this week for me. I've been doing this. I've been in this industry since 1996, and this is crunch time. This is you're off commencement from 2 weeks ago. You're head down with projects, trying to close out the year, which is huge. I mean, what was your budget in Newton?
Oh, I couldn't tell you the millions of dollars that we would spend every year at this time of year. I mean, just flooring projects and alone, we would do so many bathroom floors with epoxy. We had 23 school buildings, so that there were hundreds of bathroom floors, and we started a bathroom project where we would do epoxy floors, new partitions, and paint the walls and replace any of the the accessories that go with it. Getting back to Z, because now I know he's listening. When I was there this morning, he's got a building that's torn apart. They're doing flooring from one end to the other. It's to plan that out, you got to get all your ducks in a row so that when the kids are going out the door, your flooring company's coming in behind them.
Yeah.
We've only got 10 weeks, to put it together and finish those floors and then set up classrooms again.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of the staff don't understand. They leave and they go away for the summer and they come back in September and they're going to say, I'm sure they're going to say to Z, wow, look at these beautiful floors. Yeah. Geez. Right. What a great job. Did you guys, have a good vacation?
Yeah.
This is when we work. This is when we put it together. But this last week in particular, it's that getting started and everybody's pulling for the same vendors. All the school people are using the same vendors. And here in Massachusetts, we use state vendors.
Yep.
So there's a minimum amount and everybody's pulling for the same vendor. So, my hat's off to Z, because he put it together and he's got one of the big vendors in there and they're going from one end to the other.
So that was going to be my next question for you, actually. Because let's just say I know the number's off, but there's, I think, 363 communities. We'll just use Massachusetts. There's 363 communities. There's approximately, when you put in regional, Voc Tech, Aggie schools, everything, public wise, there's probably 400 education institutions, unique education institutions in the state, all vying in some cases, like the flooring companies that help out, the custodial service company, or the chemical companies, the people that provide all this stuff. How hard is that to coordinate, plan, and without proper planning? Have you ever seen just kind of for me, it's like, hey, I want to have my air conditioning serviced in the next week or two. It's hard, but I could probably do it. Yeah. But for your jobs and projects, it doesn't take much for timing to come off, and then it screws up a lot of other things, right?
Yeah.
Because you kind of have it. You obviously have. I'm sitting here thinking about schools. There's probably schools that are going through projector and technology retrofits.
Technology changes so quickly.
But you're tied into that. I mean,
Yep.
you gotta have the electrical setup. You've got to have the carpentry set up to cut the holes and do all that stuff.
Yep.
And you're talking. I talked to a school district recently. The only reason why I say is because they're replacing, like, one of their projects this summer is 300 projectors to be replaced. Well,
Right.
all those floors are getting stripped down and redone and all this other stuff. Coordination is like key. How difficult, because you make it look easy. Like, I look at it, I'm like, I could do that, but I know I couldn't because I just don't have
Right.
that organization level.
And not only the projects, the IT work that's going on, but in a lot of these buildings we have camps, summer
Yep.
school. So it's constantly, a chess game, moving pieces around. And it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of communication. We started our project planning when I was in Newton. We started our project planning in February. That's when we started our budget for the next year.
Wow.
In February. Meeting with principals. What are your wishes? And then, trim it down to what can we do? So
Yeah.
by March and maybe early April, we had a spreadsheet with the approved projects. So
Yeah.
then we had to go and bid them and get to the contractors, because we know everyone else is going to the same contractor. And the contractors that are doing schoolwork, they know they bulk up for the summer. They bring on summer kids and summer help, and
Yep.
and that's their job. That's their work, because you got 10 weeks to make it.
Yep.
They'll get other jobs. I know of one community that will remain nameless that missed their mark probably 10 years ago. Front Page News, they decided that they couldn't get their flooring done from the summer, but they had stripped all their tile.
Yep.
So they were just going to finish the concrete, just kind of buff up the concrete.
Yep.
Once they opened school and got everybody in there, people were getting sick from the concrete dust that was coming up from the concrete.
Oh,
they ended up
that's really
closing the
bad
school.
stuff.
Yeah, closing the school and relocating the kids to a swing space so they could do the flooring. But, they missed that small window of getting their project in line, and that's, they paid for it. It wasn't supply chain back, 10 years ago. Now we've got supply chain issues, but I'm not sure that flooring is one of them, because I know it's been plentiful out there for many communities that I've talked to.
Stupid question, and I know that there isn't an easy answer for this. So why do we hire, and why do we put an end date for retirement July 1st? Why wouldn't we ask facility directors, especially a lot of roles in the school, to take their retirement in February or March, or take a partial retirement February or March? Like, is there transition? Like, I'm seeing a lot of people that are leaving right now that don't have a person that's been there for 30 days.
Right.
Or it's somebody that's transitioning up, as we talked about. This is kind of how it's worked in the past, but doesn't have the knowledge. They've gone through the motions over the years, but they don't have that knowledge and experience of, hey, proper planning starts in February or March for projects in June, July, and August.
Yeah. I think it's more of a personal thing. For the administration, it's easier budget wise. That's just a numbers thing. But some people go with their age. It's more advantageous for them to go by a birthday and then retire. Some people go by their anniversary date of when they started.
Mm-hmm.
So they may have started, with the fiscal year. I know myself, I went with the calendar year and left, January 2nd.
Right.
Because that worked for me between my age. I have a December birthday.
Yeah.
And, got me into the next calendar year.
Right.
So, and I worked all that stuff out with my supervisor. I gave him 3 years heads up. So,
yeah.
And then when I was coming in, he told me, when he was hiring me, he told me he wanted me on board in June because he wanted me there for the summer projects.
Right.
So that was all part of his thing.
But I mean, I think that I think we're reaching like this kind of like, I'm seeing a number of people. I mean, Anthony, which I guess I don't know if he's there or not. He says he's logged on, but I can't see Anthony. So if you hit the link, enter your name, And if anybody else wants to use Anthony's link, it's for anybody. You can hit the link. Come on in.
Yeah, it's not the Google Meets one. If you got a Google,
no, it's not. No, it's not. No, I put it on LinkedIn.
Calendar.
I put the actual private page link right on LinkedIn. So whoever's on LinkedIn and wants to come on, yeah, I guess I just whatever. No one's ever gonna make me feel like I'm a technological wizard, and that's for sure. But no, I think that what we're seeing, sadly, is a lot of people that, well, I think what we were seeing up until about 2 weeks ago was people that said, you know what, I've got enough in retirement. I've got my years. I could work a couple more years. I was planning on it, but I'm reaching burnout, right, or I'm short staffed, or I'm, whatever. I believe, I believe we're going to be in for some challenging days, months, and weeks ahead, or even years ahead. I think that this decrease in stock value, 401k values, the increase. I mean, we're at the highest percent rate of mortgage rates since 2008. All these indicators would say to me that the people that were on the fence that had 3 to 5 more years are probably that were at that critical point of burnout, or saying, I might want to stay for another year or two. So there's a good byproduct, because we could have had a mass exodus here.
That 3 to 5 went to 5.
Right. Or now to 3 is now I'm going to stay the 3, right, which is good, because the talent, it's not a lack of talent and ability. I think it was a feeling of like, hey, I can be comfortable, and I've dealt with. I would say that most people that, and you've done it in a consulting fashion for multiple districts. I would say that the work that's been done in the last 2 years, the needs of the school facility professional and their team, the stress, the strain, the accountability, the everything. I would say that it's probably the hardest 2 years in the history of schools and management in my life. Like, there could have been things in the Great Depression or World War II or other times that were worse. I didn't experience it. Right. In my career. These last 2 years they're stressful and straining for me. So, Matt Oliver back again. You made it live. Welcome. He's stripping wax today. Nine rooms down. Good for you. How many rooms do you have?
Yeah. And when was school out?
Yeah. School was out for a lot of these folks like yesterday.
Yeah, some earlier, some earlier in the week too.
Yeah, well, that's they're still keeping the 180 rule, right? The kids got to do 180. They're back to that. Yeah. So, yeah.
But no. I know that then it becomes a challenge for working parents. Now kids are home.
Yep.
And that's when they end up coming back to the schools, doing camps and basketball programs, basketball camps, just keep busy camps, doing exercise and stuff like that. It's the schools are used year round now.
Oh yeah.
And today at Z's building, it's one of the rare occasions that no one's in the building at this time, because every square inch of the flooring is being replaced. So it's the only one in the building is the work crew that's moving, is his guys moving furniture, and then the work crew that's putting down tile and taking up old tile.
Yep. No, I'm doing a so in March 13th of 2020, I had 39 keynotes, general sessions, whatever you want to call. I like to call them celebrations, booked, and by March 17th, 2020, 38 of them were canceled. The last one to cancel, which they did it literally weeks before they were supposed to have me, was the PCC ASP summer camp at Stonehill College. They were the group that had me hold out hope. And this is a college, so it's a little bit different. But I can't imagine how their staff is handling it. Their school, the commencement was late last month. They welcome 500 7th to 11th graders to live on campus for a month for this camp. Yeah. So they check in this Saturday, and they're there until the end of July. I'm going there Tuesday night to do a kickoff celebration call with them. But I just say, I look at it. So people look at it and they're like, oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that cool? I look at it and go, oh my God, that's a lot of kids in my space of campus that I want to do work on. So, that's the hard part. Again, that community, keeping it open, the camps. YMCA's are closing their buildings, but they're needing the space to continue to do events. So I know some local YMCA's that are using the high school basketball courts opposed to the facilities that they had, which is every week, sometimes every day.
And then a lot of us refinish our gym floors in the summer.
Yep.
So now we've got camps on there, and we got to schedule around the camp so that we can get polyurethane down, because you can't have people in the gym for 5 days after and using the floor. So it's amazing. But I can see we got an update here from Matt.
Yep.
Matt says school was out last Tuesday in New Hampshire. We have 170 rooms in 2 schools.
Yep.
But all the furniture's been cleaned. 50% of the furniture has moved out. So that's the thing that people don't understand. We not only have to clean the rooms, we have to move the furniture out, then go in, because you can't wax around the tables, and then put it all back.
Right.
And these guys that are working in the summers, they have, sketches that the teachers have left them, or they take a picture of the room of how it was set up. Because when the teachers come back, they don't want a pile of furniture. They want their room set up the way they left it.
Right.
Today in Z's building,
it's like a time capsule.
Laid it out on a whiteboard.
Yeah. The teachers treat it as a time capsule. When they close the door on the last day of school, they expect it to be pristine with everything in its right position, as they should. And there's all different setups and ways that they want their rooms, which I, by the way, commend. I think that the standard row system and putting the way that it was set up when I was there, I think
rows don't work anymore.
Yeah, rows don't work. I will tell you what's pretty cool, which you go, how genius is this, and the time saving when you think about it. So like, if you were to guess, how many desks and chairs, student desks and chairs, were there at Newton High School?
We had 300 classrooms and 25 in a classroom. What's that math work out to me?
600 and 750. Is that right?
7,050?
No, should be 750, I think, right? So would you say
25 desks in a room and 300?
Oh, 300.
300 rooms.
Yeah. I was doing 7,500. I was doing 30 times 25. So 7,500. So here's the funny thing is 7,500 what is it? Times 2 by 60. So there's a Verco, I think it is, came out with the chair that stacks on the desk without having to flip it.
Yep. Yeah, it balances on the top of the desk.
Slide and balance.
Yep.
And someone told me the other day that saves an average of 3 seconds per action, meaning putting it up and taking it down, from picking it up and flipping it over and then flipping it over and putting it down. Right. And I was like, well, okay, big deal, right? But you get 30 desks in a classroom.
Yeah.
It's 90 seconds per class each end. So we'll just say 100, we'll say, 183 minutes per classroom. You're buying back 90 minutes. If you're doing 30 classrooms as a custodian, you're buying back 90 minutes in your daily cleaning just by the way you flip your chair. Like, think about how crazy that is.
And with the kids that are a little bit older, it's safer for them to put that chair on the desk. So at the end of the day, we have classrooms at the end of the day where we have the kid put the chair up on the desk so that we can sweep the classroom every night.
Yep.
Think about the time saver there.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was kind of slick. Because I was like, well, big deal, right?
Yeah.
The school showed me, and I was like, oh, well, that's great, cool. You pick up, it's one motion, and you put it and slide it.
Right.
It's kind of like with the if anybody's ever seen The Pursuit to Happiness, where Will Smith never hung up the phone, he just would push the buttons. He saved 3 or 4 seconds in dialing. That's how he could dial more. It's like, wow, I never even really thought of that. But desks and chairs. So
but Rick Trump. Little things like that make a difference. We have the teachers, if they can, put the wastebasket by the door.
Yeah.
So when the custodian comes around with that large barrel that he pushes down the corridor, he doesn't have to walk across the classroom.
I've actually saw a school before COVID, which I got nervous about, because I think that anything that's not nailed down can disappear by anybody, doesn't necessarily. And for whatever reason. But I saw a district that did exactly what I did. which is you put 5 bags in a barrel. So Monday through Friday. So you put the 4 bags in the bottom, and you put the 1 bag in as the liner. And they had to, and I asked them, I said, how does this work? Because hotels, they ask you to put your towels and put your trash by the door. Nobody does it, but the time savings, if everybody did, that's enormous. And I said, first of all, how often do your custodians have to go and, add more bags? They're like, no. He said every Sunday or Monday, they put in 5 bags, 4 in the can, one in the liner. And every day the teacher takes a bag, ties it up, puts it in the hallway.
Right.
Now one person just walks down the hallway, chucks them in,
does
it. And it saves minutes per classroom. You don't need to walk in. You don't need to change the liner. You don't need to, it's not a big deal. And you do it at your house.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, it's like the simple tasks that you could do at your house, you should be able to do, at your work.
And there's all those little tips and tricks that we've learned over the years, like up here in New England in the snow days, when the kids are out playing, having recess in the snow, when you bring them in, line the kids up on that entry mat and have them all jump up and down. It knocks the snow off their boots, and the kids love to do it.
Right.
The kids are having a great time. And then when they walk off that mat, most of the snow's on the mat, and you might get a little, wet footprints going across the tile, but that makes a big difference.
But you have to assume that you get good mats too. I mean, you see a lot of.
It all comes back to having good equipment. Yeah. But I got a funny story. You talk about rows in a classroom. Back when I worked in Watertown in 95, 96, a principal called me and she said, you need to speak to one of my teachers. She's having some trouble with one of your custodians. And I always loved that. The principals would say they're my custodians when there was trouble, but they're their custodians when things are going well. Right. So I went and talked to the teacher and I said, what's going on? She said, your custodian took my rug, rolled it up and took it and is holding it hostage. I said, holding it hostage for what? And she said, he doesn't like that I don't have my desks in a row. And he said, it's harder for him to clean the room because he can't get between, she had the desks in 4s and he can't get between all the desks. So he said, he's not giving me the rug back until I put my desk back in a row. And that was like 96.
Yeah.
So I had to go and talk to him. I said, you need to give her a rug back.
Yeah.
And the teacher can set up a room any way that you want. He was one of the old timers. He grew up with desks in a row and thought that that's the way they should always be. And but I worked with him a bit and we got him over it and everybody was happy in the end. So, but it was kind of funny that he held a rug hostage.
I'm a big fan of the idea that kids come in and they have cubbies at the front door and they take their shoes off and they put either other shoes or slippers on.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a great
idea. It's a logistical nightmare. It's unrealistic. I think the realistic thing is I could probably get a couple fruit trees on some school buildings at some point before I die. Yeah. I think unrealistic is lockers outside the school, just outside the school, where there's a safe mat, like almost like a sterilized one of those sticky mats where you have at the scientific places where they put their fresh slippers or shoes on and get to walk around school. Because if you do that, you're not bringing anything from the outside in.
Yep. So check this out. It's funny you should say that. I just happened to have a picture from the town of Dover Sherborne where I'm doing some work, and I sent it to my daughter who works in Watertown. I said, "This is my most favorite teacher ever."
Oh my God! Yeah, but it's all the shoes.
I know the glare was on.
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah.
All the kids' boots were outside the classroom.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I said, that was great. Now, the whole school didn't do it, but that teacher, and then it led to some others doing it, but I thought that was great.
Well, it's got to start somewhere. It's got to start with one, right? It's got to start with one, and then hopefully other people go, well, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
Because it makes absolute sense. Like if you thought about, you think about what you leave outside, like if, I don't walk inside my house with shoes on, I've been walking all over the place. Why am I going to walk all over the floor? I got animals, I got kids, I got all this stuff. But we got Rick Tremble, poor kids. Oh my God, their kids just got out today. Oh, jeez, wow.
Yeah, I think Watertown got out today too. My grandkids
putting in the overtime. But Rick said, my kids went right up until today. I believe they started stripping the floors as the buses pulled away.
Yep, absolutely. And that makes a big difference. I mean, the staff, the kids, they love those snow days. when in February. But for us, every time there's a snow day, it takes a day from our summer.
Right.
And when we've got a limited time to do what has to be done.
Yep.
Before September, and not even September. The teachers are back in August. Some of them will coming back in July.
Yeah.
That's another thing we guess around, because we would never refuse anyone who wants to come to the classroom and work, but we would send out broadcasts from the senior custodians. The A wing rooms 200 to 225 are cleaned and waxed. You can come and set up your classroom if you'd like. And and it's amazing how many, the teachers are dedicated. How many teachers will come in on their own time in the summer to work in their classroom?
Yep.
I used to tell my boss, give me 10 weeks off in the summer and see if I show up at my job. Yep. It's not going to happen, but that's what they do. And I would never try to stop anyone from doing that. If I have projects to do, the projects take precedent.
Yeah. We might need to put Matt Oliver's school on the tour list. We have to go to a different bridge and make a right, but I think we can make it.
Boots outside the classroom are standard in our elementary school, Matt says.
So when you make it, you make it the rule, and people follow it. You're not asking for difficult stuff.
Yep.
Right. You're not asking for people to do anything that is really outside the norm. Most people probably take their shoes off when they come into their house, right?
Yeah.
I assume when you're a guest to somebody's house, though, do you take your shoes off? Because that's the interesting thing.
I found it the norm when I visit the family we have in Alaska. For some reason, wherever they go, they take their shoes off at the door.
Yeah,
it's just the way it is.
I have slippers at my I'm going to say my mother-in-law, but someday mother-in-law, I have slippers at her house. So when we go over to have dinner or to visit, I walk in, I take my shoes off and I put the slippers on. My mother lives next door. As a rule, I take my shoes off. But now that I'm thinking about it, I said, recently I went in and I walked all the way up into the kitchen. I had my shoes on. But I try to make it a habit to take my shoes off, unless I got holy socks, because then that's a problem, right?
You gotta check that stuff before you leave the house.
Yeah, unless I got holy socks or quitters on, which happens, or mismatched socks. That's been my COVID. My number one COVID could care less is whether or not my socks match.
Yeah.
Which that's the whole nother episode, is why do we buy so many pairs of socks that are different?
Yep.
Like I don't think I have two pairs of socks. I bet I have 100 pairs of socks, and I don't think two pairs are the same. Like I don't think I have any bundle packs. And missing socks. But Matt, we'll figure it out, man. He says, I'd love to have you up to our schools. We'll figure it out. Paul and I are we're working on some road tours and some fun and getting out and about and doing episodes around. We're going to go to New Jersey in August. Yep. We're going to hit the bridge and take a left. Paul is, for those of you that haven't been listening or new to listening, under Anthony Amiano, if you're on LinkedIn, under his post, there's actually a link you can join us. If it's not working, message me so that I can try to figure out how it's going to work. While this was supposed to be an episode where people could dial in and welcome, I think I might have maybe done something wrong. But David Young, great conversation as usual. You have the link if you want to dial in and say hello at some point. You feel free. We got a long history with David. Worked with him, a while back. But for those of you that don't know Paul and I's background, Paul is many things to me. One of the things that he is a phenomenal co-pilot. So he's my directions. We when we go someplace, we might look at MapQuest once. We think that I think Paul probably doesn't. I think it lies. It definitely lied on our recent trip to Atlantic City for an event. And so what we came up with is go to the bridge and take a left. And that's how you get to Atlantic City from Boston, which is drive down 95 to George Washington Bridge. When you get across that, just look to take a left and head south until you hit Atlantic City. And we found it. So may or may not have been the most direct way, but it sure as heck was the fastest way.
And for me, it's really entertainment. For those who haven't driven with Josh, I mean, to see him argue with the GPS while he's driving, I mean, like verbally argue with the GPS, it's kind of comical.
I was right. Was I not right? I mean,
right.
It was off by almost 40 minutes.
But that piece of software didn't care.
No,
there was no emotion on the other side.
No, I just think I just think that I don't think that there are enough people. So this is the way that I understand GPS to work, is that you have your location settings on when it's active. So it's constantly transitioning information back to the mothership saying the car ahead of you drove from this point to this point in this amount of time, and this is how long it should take. There's a lot that could happen during that period of time, or it's always giving you detours and ideas because a car stopped. You don't know why the car stopped.
Right.
Because so it could look like it's a traffic jam, but the car really just stopped because it pulled over to the side. So we'll put it this perspective. There's one car on the stretch of 5 miles of road that is pinging back and forth for MapQuest, because I don't use Waze. I'd use Yahoo Maps and print it out if I could still, because I think that's the most accurate static thing. But like there's a car ahead of you that's pinging, and it pulls over because it got a flat tire. Well, it's completely stopped. Well, it's not reporting back that the car is completely stopped because it's got a flat tire. It's completely stopped, so it's assuming that there's traffic. So if that's the only car they have to go off of, it changes your whole timeline by a lot. Yep. So I go by the wind. I go by the crow flying. I go by all that other stuff. So, let's see what this thing says. Do you see this thing just pop up?
I see the chats here.
Yeah, hang on.
I want to know how Matt's getting any work done. He's been chatting with us like most of this episode. Has he got the iPad hung around his neck?
I think he does.
Walking through the building and
try again, Anthony. Here it is. Here, let's see this blast from a past for a quick minute and see how he's doing. It looks like it's David Young. Look at that.
Hey,
it's the old man on the mountain.
Look at him.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you fine.
If I say no, I can't hear you. What does that do?
That means I need to leave the room, basically.
No, and then come back.
Nah, I have a few minutes. I just thought I'd test it to make sure it was working for you guys, because you guys are having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, we could use a smart guy like you every once in a while to keep us in line like you used to.
That's right. All right, I don't have much time. I have a meeting in a few minutes, but I figured I'd at least pop in and say hello, make sure it was working for you guys. At least you know that's working.
Always great to see an old friend. How's the weather down in North Carolina? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, very warm today. Very warm, humid.
Stay in and stay cool. David worked with me in a previous life. David actually has some driving experience with me from the non-polar vortex, but the snow.
Yeah, we don't want to get into that one.
He showed up to the airport with a helmet.
I did. First time driving with Peach, it was snow as far as high as you could ever see on both sides. He picked me up at the airport down in not at Boston, but the other one was it.
No, I picked you up in Boston. I picked you up in Boston. I drove you.
Okay, maybe it was Boston, but man, I tell you what, driving down the road with him, steering one hand, coffee in one hand, television in another, and everything going every which direction.
Yeah,
I forgot.
We had some good times.
Days. I forgot the good old days of when I had a TV in the dashboard of my car.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly
what you need. Something shiny for you to look at when you're driving.
That's exactly right.
Look,
it's for the passenger. It's the passenger.
That's right.
I care about the passenger. I want to be able to watch movies or the news or whatever.
Yeah, the passenger who had a helmet on, obviously. So you can't care about him too much. He's wearing a helmet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was good times. I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. I'm glad I joined. Like I said, I just figured I'd pop in for a minute because I had a couple minutes before my next meeting. Just make sure things are working, and it is working. So somehow the technical problem seems to be okay on my end.
The technical problem is human error, David. So that's what you just let us know.
That's all right. Well, you guys keep up the good work, okay? And tell the other knucklehead a hello for me too. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, no, we know. Yeah. No, we know him. We'll definitely tell him that as well. And thanks for your support, brother. Appreciate you being on here all the time, and glad you could jump on and make sure to remind the world that it's human error and it's my fault. So
hey, that's good. Well, you guys enjoy yourself. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next episode, man.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I forgot about that for a second. Yeah, that was 2005. There was when we got all that snow and we had to go to Worcester, and we were behind. I think his plane was delayed. That was probably the rush thing. And he's like, "Hey man, it's okay." And I'm like, "No, these guys paid for a full day." Can't be late a minute. They paid for a full day. So Yeah. So Matt said, not my day. No, my day starts at 5 a.m.
So he can.
So he can. And he says, I'm actually going to listen to the rest of the episode later, going to play with my daughter for a little bit. Thanks for what you're doing. Matt, you do that. Playing with your daughter is
It's
way
much
more important
than
than listening to us live, especially on a
Absolutely.
beautiful Friday afternoon. But we appreciate you, buddy. You've been listening pretty religiously since we met you April 26th up in New Hampshire. So you like me knowing the day, don't you, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
You do that. You keep doing that. I want to come around when you're my age and see if you can still do that.
It's a locked box. It comes out of nowhere.
You do it so well.
It's amazing. You try to thread. Well, I was talking about this with someone yesterday about kind of threading life together, and you can do it except for during COVID because it was Groundhog Day. It was literally Groundhog Day, like March 13th, 2020 to June 7th of 2021. You could tell me something happened on any day, and I'd probably be like, "Yep, it probably did." Because what I do, I woke up, I went to work. Most of the time, I put pants on. Did my job the best that I could. Was in my office, didn't go anywhere. It was every day. It was Groundhog Day. With me, with when you start traveling, you start going places, and you start thinking about, well, what did I do on that day? How did I do this day? Da 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 da. You and I picked you up on April 25th. Did our thing on April 26th. Came home. Spoke on April 27th. Came home from that from the Facility Masters Conference, and we had Bill Cooper on for the podcast. So Anthony was at Newark Airport. That's why he couldn't get on. Man, Newark Airport's that's one of the airports getting hit hard by all these delays. I'm not doing that again. When I applied for my job at my previous employer in 2004, I went down and interviewed in North Carolina, and my plane ticket was through Newark. They didn't have direct flights to Raleigh, North Carolina. And so, I mean, this like when you talk about like a sign of question, you flying back from a job interview, you land in Newark, you take off on time, you try to land in Providence 4 times, but the crosswind was so bad that you literally could see the runway touching down, and the plane took back off again, flew back to Newark. So it's 12:30 at night, and you sleep in the airport. And the only 7 square feet of that airport getting cleaned by the auto scrubber is right in front of the seat that you're trying to sleep in.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, people talk about travel. For those of you that are going to travel this summer, here's my public service announcement. Do it on my regular Be Awesome page, and we should probably wrap up because this time flew and technical difficulties. I'm glad we had this talk, though. And I'm guessing a lot of our listeners are probably head down, busting their hump, and gonna be busy, so they'll listen to it later. So, but here's a travel announcement from somebody that travels a lot. Lighten up. If you're going to travel, if you're going to go someplace, if you're going to do, Disney World, go visit family, whatever, if you haven't planned at least a day on each end of open, meaning leave a day early, plan to stay a day late, then you're not prepared. It is tough out there, along with operations.
Remember that person, that man or woman behind the counter or the podium or wherever you check it in, it's not their fault.
No,
they didn't do it. They didn't pull the plug on your flight. They did. I see so many people at the airport that just giving those people such a hard time. It's like, it's not their fault.
Well, I think this comes down to this whole thing of like, we want leniency for our shortages of staff and our difficulties and everything else. And then there's people that just don't want to give the leniency back. But, I flew to Texas last week. It was relatively uneventful. I flew to Jacksonville the week before. There was definitely some challenges there. And I was just talking to Amy last night because I had made a commitment this year for my travel that I was going to fly out at night opposed to early in the morning, or in the afternoon opposed to early in the morning, and for an event the next day. So let's just say I'm doing a talk in New Mexico, like tomorrow. Well, I would fly out at like noon to 6 o'clock at night, so that I didn't disrupt the house by taking an early flight. And when I was talking to Amy last night, I said, every flight I'm taking is the first flight out. That way I have backup flights, like a full day ahead. So if I'm speaking tomorrow, anytime tomorrow, I'm taking the 6 a.m. flight out today
today
to best ensure me getting there. And there's still a possibility I won't.
Yep.
I saw one of my friends' speakers who's awesome. If anybody wants, especially in education, go to docspeaks.com. Adolph Brown, guy's amazing. But I saw he was up here in Boston. He did a master class for Boston Public Schools on Wednesday morning. Was supposed to fly to Jackson, Mississippi to speak yesterday morning, and they landed in Charlotte and canceled his flight. So he had to drive 10 hours to get there, to get to Mississippi. Yeah. You know, when you're a paid speaker, a lot of people think it's great. It is great. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I hope I get to do more of it. I hope I get to do it for the rest of my life. I hope I get to share stuff with folks. But when everybody's like, oh, that's got to be so great, it's got to be so awesome. Let me tell you something. I sleep in the airport a couple times a year. I've had to pack a bag and get in a rental car. I actually got stuck in Charlotte one night and drove in the middle of the night and had to get my clothes and toiletries from one of those tourist stores, the Surf City stores or whatever it is. The only thing's open 24 hours, and literally pulled in just in time to deliver a keynote at 8:00 in the morning and try to get some sleep. I had like a muumuu for one of those big t-shirts that's got like the bikini on it. I bought one of those as something funny for me to sleep in because I had no clothes. But it's tough stuff out there. So just try to be patient, especially, and be patient for the people that are working in the airports. Everybody trying to keep it clean, trying to keep it safe. All of them, they're all doing the best that they can. So, but I think that's where we're at, Paul. I think we're good for the week. I think we got David Young was able to prove that whatever I did, whatever went wrong today with people dialing in, we'll do this again. But this was a great episode. I think we chopped up a whole bunch of stuff with the hot mic and made it work. So I think we'll wrap it up. I know what you're going to say.
Yes. Who's the shout out for this week?
I got to tell you, I got a shout out. I got a shout out to the school faculty at this district. This was a cool story. I don't know if you heard this. It's from about a year ago, but it's titled "Kindness Wins." School faculty chip in to buy car for staffer who walk to work every day. Jackson had fallen on hard times, was forced to either travel by an unreliable bus route, which we've heard about bus routes before, or take an hour-long walk. In a heartwarming gesture, teachers at a U.S. school went to the extra mile to gift a car to the custodian of the institution. Now a video of the man moved by the gesture is going viral. Chris Jackson, a custodian at Unity Grove Elementary School in Henry County, Georgia, couldn't believe it when his colleagues pitched in to buy him a car. As the faculty and staff were aware he was struggling financially and had to walk to work every day, they took up the mission to extend helping a hand to him. The video going viral across social media sites captures the man's reaction when he was brought to the car and handed the keys. I never would have dreamed something like this, Jackson was heard saying. This is mind-blowing to me, he added before thanking teachers over and over again. In a Facebook post, the school said the teachers collected funds to also help him find housing and make utility payments. Little did we know it was his favorite type of car, and he was stunned to know it was his, the school shared. According to Newsweek, Jackson had fallen on hard times, was forced to either travel by an unreliable bus or an hour-long walk. The sweet gesture came as many American U.S. states started to reopen. Despite all the hurdles, the man said he didn't quit. Talking to Alive 11 News, he said, I didn't run away, I'd just stay. I just put my pride aside. I'd just come to work to smile, to be me. There's never been a day where he has not come in with a smile on his face. The kids here adore him. They love Mr. Chris, and he just works so hard. The wonderful gesture won hearts online, with people saying it reaffirmed their faith in humanity. So hats off to the faculty and staff, and even more so, hats off to Mr. Chris for putting such a powerful impact with his smile every day, and obviously his hard work for people to recognize, notice, and want to support him. I think that's one of the things we'll talk about at some point, Paul, is, a lot of staff, even though they had work, they didn't get a lot of the overtime work. These custodians didn't get the overtime work because the schools weren't being utilized for after hours use of events. And that overtime, a lot of them count on for their financial independence. Yeah. And so I thought that story was pretty good, especially with, summer coming and we're talking about more events. So hopefully they can get that time that additional time that they need, additional pay that they could use. But I thought that was really kind of cool. That was a little bit of a flip to the script. So
that's great.
Well, this was another good one, my friend. I appreciate it. Next week, I'm thinking next week it's going to be July 1st. So this will be an interesting one. We'll have to figure out if we can pull something together with a guest. But I think this was great, and on the long side without a guest. But appreciate you making the time, my friend. And thanks, David Young. Thanks for all the people making the comments that didn't want to click in or may have clicked in, and I just didn't catch it.
Good luck in the airport, Anthony.
Yeah. Hopefully you're not going anywhere. But in the meantime, we've been getting a number of 5-star ratings and reviews on our podcast. That's what helps us grow. We're in the top 10% of all podcasts. There's over 3.3 million podcasts. So we're in a good place right now. So, and it's all because of you, the listeners that are going onto the podcast platforms, putting those 5-star ratings and reviews, putting the likes and the follows into YouTube. We really want to increase and grow our following and help, if not educate, help people understand the world of operations and education, and put a smile on people's faces. I think I laughed a couple times in this episode. I know you did, Paul, especially when we were talking about my driving. So appreciate all of you. Chris Martinetti, we will line you up when we're going to go to the Red Sox game. I don't know if I responded to that, but I see the comment that you're in. You're in
visit Matt Oliver too.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna definitely
put him on the tour. We're gonna get tour T-shirts.
Yeah, we might have to do that. Yeah, we were going to get the Bobcat in a phone booth T-shirts all those years ago. We might have to get the Be Awesome Bobcat in a phone booth tour shirt. So, well, listen, everybody, in the meantime, if you can be anything, be awesome. Have a great day.